Well, hello, and welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese, and I'm really glad you're here today because our conversation is about what it means to rebuild your life when so much of what you thought defined you has fallen away. My guest today is Paul Drayton, a British actor and writer whose life has taken him from working class Sunderland to London nightlife, the edges of the celebrity world, and ultimately to a much quieter and happier life in the countryside. Paul spent more than a decade known publicly as the other half of a celebrity couple, but behind the scenes, his life included addiction, loss of identity, public scrutiny, recovery, and eventually a late-in-life ADHD diagnosis at the age of 50. His debut memoir, Ride or Die Trying, tells that story with candor, dark humor, and a willingness to look honestly at the choices, relationships, and experiences that shaped him. Now, what especially stood out to me when Paul shared more about his story was something he said about the people he hoped to reach. He wants to help people who are trying to find their way back to themselves. And if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that is a conversation really close to my heart. So much of forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, is about learning how to face what has happened, to take responsibility for what is ours, and still allow ourselves to move forward. Paul, welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You're
Deep breath. I'm not used to talking about myself, and I'm new to all this podcast malarkey. So let's just have a good conversation and see where it takes us, to see what comes out. With my ADHD motor mouth, I might go off on a tangent. I might come out with stuff that, well, relevant to the book. But yeah, we'll just see where we'll go.
Yeah, because your book is newly out. It's only been out,
Yes.
what, a couple months, I
Yes,
think?
a month, and the official launch is tomorrow. So I'm going up to London to do a launch in Waterstones. And I'm really proud of this book, really proud of it.
Oh, and like you and I were talking about, you said it comes out on Audible today. So
That's right, yes, yeah.
So that's really good, especially for people like one of my daughters who has ADHD. It's so
And
good because she
myself.
can listen. Yes.
Yeah. I struggle
Exactly.
to read books. Well, I don't struggle to read. It's just keeping the focus of it. So it's good to listen to it when you're doing
Absolutely.
whatever you're doing throughout the day. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
You know, and you were saying about coming back to yourself. I mean, I'm 55 next month, and it's never too late to to discover who you actually are. I wrote an article for a magazine, and and it says I finally auditioned for the role of being me, because I'm an actor, obviously, and so I've finally auditioned for the role of being just me,
Oh,
and I found out who I am, and I'm not people pleasing anymore. I'm just being my true, authentic self. But as you'll read in the book, it's been one hell of a journey. It's been a
yeah.
roller coaster, highs, lows, the lot. And so I'm just glad that I've been given the opportunity, and I've taken the opportunity to write this book, to share it with people, and hopefully they'll learn something from it and they'll take something from it. You know, I've had great reviews and people have given me really positive feedback on it. So yeah, I'm proud of it. It's not something that I would ever thought I would have done, having ADHD, but I managed. I've got a great team around me, and we got through it. And that's important, having the right team around you who encourage you and support you and are there for you and push you. And people who are honest with you as well. You know, I think that's really, really important.
Really important. And especially in your story where you have fought so hard. You know, you've hit rock bottom. You're finding your way back still. I mean, I think it's a lifelong journey,
It is.
especially in recovery,
Yeah.
right? And I have a question for you would be, there's a difference between knowing intellectually that our life needs to change and then wanting, like a desire for something different. So can you share with our listeners, what was the turning point when you realized you didn't just want to get sober, you actually wanted to rebuild your life and find happiness again?
Well, there was no particular turning point. up until about 5 years ago, when I got the ADHD, the late ADHD diagnosis, you know, I just thought that was me. This is my character. This is my life. This is who I am. But now I got divorced from my ex husband, who, as you mentioned, was in the public eye. And throughout that period and leading up to that period as well, it just kind of felt something wasn't quite right.
Mm.
Something didn't quite fit. And, and being an alcoholic, you go into treatment centers, you go into rehabs. I did an ayahuasca retreat, which we can touch upon, and it's written about in the book. You do whatever you can to find a reason why I ended up the way that I was
Mm.
5 years ago. And it kind of, it all came to a head, and that's when I kind of hit rock bottom. And then after the late diagnosis of ADHD, I didn't have like time to really fully understand what it was about, what the ADHD was about. I didn't really know about it. It's not until, the last few years, like sexuality as well, it's become more and more talked about, which
Yeah.
is brilliant. But when I got divorced and moved into my own home, my own safe space, it was then I kind of started to write the book, and things started to kind of unravel and
Mm.
explain exactly what had been going on within my life throughout my life. And it was like, I wouldn't say it was a light bulb moment, but it was such a revelation for me to not give myself an excuse, but
Mhm.
just to fully understand me and, what had been going on, because again, there's a huge connection between ADHD and self-medicating.
Absolutely.
And I, writing this book, I realized that I was self-medicating most of my life. I talk about it. The first the first thing I can kind of remember was when I couldn't sleep at night at the age of like 15, 16, 17. The brain was going around, it was overthinking, it was ruminating, stupid thoughts, and I couldn't sleep. And my Auntie Gladys, she said, go and make yourself a hot whiskey and milk and some sugar. So that's what I did. Went down,
Yeah.
popped some milk in a mug, heated it up, put a good glug of whiskey in and some sugar, and I'd take it back upstairs to bed. I'd sip it, put Tony Braxton on the hi-fi, and the brain would just stop. You'd just calm down, and it would drift you off to sleep. So that was my first kind of recollection of
Wow.
self-medicating for the overactive brain.
Yes.
And then as I got older, well, I moved to London to follow my passion for acting at the age of 27.
Okay.
And it was great. It was a whole new world for me
Yeah.
because prior to that, I was working for the mail company over here, the Royal Mail. And so it was like great. I'm in London, and you can kiss whoever you want. You can hold hands with whoever you want. I mean, not necessarily. I just felt it was just growing up in a small town in Sunderland. You never saw homosexuality.
This is thank you so much for sharing that, because a lot of what you touched on there when you were talking about self-medicating, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the people doing that, and we're doing it more and more. And I think it's important, the messaging of what we've learned underneath that, why we self-medicated. And so, what else in your discovery of you, what did you find was underneath that? Because you were talking about going way back to where, the ant, because that just made sense, the whiskey and that, just do that because, we don't know.
No.
Um, but was there anything else that was underneath as you discovered, let's put it this way, as you, not just the ADHD, but was there other things? Was there any kind of neglect or any emotional loss that you had discovered about yourself when you were coming back to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, which is like really weird
Yeah.
because as alcoholics,
Yeah.
we see therapists, we see counselors, we go to meetings, and you just keep asking yourself, why, why, why?
Hmm.
Why have I went from a sweet, innocent boy in Sunderland to a raging alcoholic in London and then
Yeah.
on. And you just think, why? And there was no trauma. There was no abuse. I had a great childhood growing up. I mean, I write about it in the book. And so I just couldn't understand it. I really couldn't. You know, you delve even deeper. Or was it because my father had, gone through trauma as a child and it was passed on subliminally through
Yeah.
him? You know, you look at every aspect of
Yeah.
your upbringing, your childhood, but it just nothing kind of made sense. And and I think I used drink as a coping mechanism as well,
Mhm.
especially when I married my now ex-husband. I used it to kind of keep up with people because I thought maybe it made me more funnier. It gave me more courage because I was quite a shy
Yeah.
child. Still am actually quite shy. I don't, as I said to you before the podcast, I don't like talking about myself.
Yeah.
Even though I've written the book and I've laid everything bare. There's no holds barred in this book. It's brutally honest. But I've lost my trail of thought and I can't remember what I was saying now. So help me out.
Yes. No, we were talking about what you were surprised that you were diving deeper into maybe reasons why the
Yeah.
alcoholism, and there wasn't like your dad, it wasn't subliminally,
No. Yeah.
shared with you. So I think that that's important. So really what I'm hearing you say is like the ADHD, the uncomfortableness maybe with yourself and the way that the brain was working was
Yeah.
what caused you to medicate. And you
Mm.
learned how to self-medicate.
Yeah. Absolutely, that was my go-to. But
Yeah.
just to say something there, I've just
Yeah.
because a lot of my stuff that comes up on Instagram is about trauma and ADHD, and a woman has just said on there that she had all the ADHD traits, but then realized that it was possibly, and I spoke to a psychiatrist on another podcast about this,
Yeah.
that she possibly wasn't ADHD, but because she had gone through a life of trauma and
Mhm.
abuse, that set her nervous system, her vagus nervous system, in survival mode constantly. So, and I think that isn't necessarily the case with me completely,
Yeah.
but I was in a relationship that wasn't towards the end wasn't good for my health and it was toxic, and so
Yeah.
I think my nervous system was on high alert, and I used a mood altering substance to
Yeah.
change the way I felt. It's like this past kind of 5 years I've done a lot of discovering and a lot of learning about myself. And, you know, as alcoholics and addicts, we do whatever we can do to understand ourselves, to help ourselves to get better. And one of the things that I tried, a friend of mine actually went on an ayahuasca retreat. I don't know whether you've heard of ayahuasca.
Yeah, I've
And
done
he
it
said,
before. I've
you have, yeah,
experienced it
yeah.
once. Yeah.
Well, there's a chapter in the book. It's quite interesting. After the 2 days there, I mean, it was pretty grueling. It was pretty tough. And I expelled what they say all your demons by purging,
Yes.
and we went through two ceremonies and there was a lot of talking going on, and it went into the middle of the night, and I learned a lot about myself there, that when I was taking the ayahuasca itself, I was too busy focusing on other people, what was going on around them. And there was people crying, there was people screaming. There was a guy next to me on the left who was behaving in this really freakish way, and it was freaking me out. And it was like, I was thinking, blooming heck, is this what it
Yeah.
does to you? But then I thought, right, just keep focusing on me. And that's probably what I've been doing all my life focusing on everybody else, people pleasing, and trying to kind of, trying to sort everybody else's lives out apart from my own.
Yeah.
Anyway, at the end of the retreat, we were dancing around like lunatics. There was drums playing and there was music, and I just felt so light and free, like I was a child again. It was incredible. And I'd never felt like that for a long time.
Yes.
So I said to the shame, and I told her how I felt, and she said in her Irish accent, "You've come home, you've come home." And it really did feel like I'd come home. And I wouldn't, I'm not recommending anybody to do ayahuasca, but, it did help me a lot. And something I will say on that is that I saw, when I was doing the ayahuasca, I saw a premonition into my premature death. And I won't tell you exactly because it's written in the book. I'm trying to give people a snip.
Yeah. Yes,
And
exactly.
yeah, I saw a premonition into my premature death. And sure enough, when I got home and everything went back to normal, and not normal, but back to the way it was before, something that I saw under the ayahuasca actually happened. And now, fortunately, I didn't die, thankfully. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the book's called Ride or Die Trying, because
Oh,
I have nearly died on a number of occasions. So,
yeah.
yeah, it was just really insightful. But anyway, after the ayahuasca retreat, went back home, things weren't great. I did something stupid. It was all because I was married to somebody famous. It was in the papers. It was exposed. My ex-husband had already outed me as an alcoholic in 2018. So people, not that I should really care, but people just saw me as this alcoholic husband of this person in the spotlight. Now, that wasn't the case at all. When we met, yes, we both liked to party and we both liked to drink, but it wasn't until, quite a long time after that in 2015, I had a really bad year. And I think I went from being a kind of functioning alcoholic who liked to drink at night or partied at, occasional weekends, to being alcohol dependent. And again, that was to numb the pain of a back injury that medicines wouldn't touch. I had to have injections eventually because I had sciatica, and anybody who's had sciatica
I
can
have.
relate to the pain
Oh my
on
God.
that. So yeah,
Yes.
I was drinking to numb the pain. That's another thing that I was doing. And so that's when I kind of realized that, things had got a bit too much, and I checked in to be medically detoxed in my first kind of treatment. So I went there. They medically detoxed me. I was in therapy for like 6 days, and I thought, great, the alcohol was out of the system. I thought, I've got this. Like a lot of alcoholics, I've got this. I can do it. It's
Right?
absolutely fine. How many times have you done that? How many times? And so, again, being in certain situations, around in the media, going to events, it's there. And it's difficult when you're first in sobriety not to, feel like you're not included in it. So again, you start to drink normally, inverted commas, and then slowly but surely it would kind of ramp up again. And something would happen, something personal would happen, or would have a row, and it would set my anxiety off, and it would just escalate again. So over a period of about 2015, I would say 7 or 8 years, I went through this cycle of getting sober, staying sober for a long time, and then relapsing. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I just couldn't understand it. But the guilt that I felt because of it was unbelievable. And also it was out there in the public domain that I was an alcoholic. And
Mm.
It just wasn't nice. And
No.
after the ayahuasca retreat, something happened, which I write about in the book, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay.
And so that was when we really decided that that was it. And because I tried to work on the relationship, I tried to work on myself. I was working on myself all the time. I suggested therapy, couples counseling, stuff like that, but my partner wouldn't commit to it. And so again, I just felt like I was trying to do everything within my power to work on myself, but it just wasn't going anywhere. And then, unfortunately, foolishly, I ended up being arrested because I went out in the car. I was a completely broken man. I got arrested, and then it just went tits up from then on, and I just went down and down and down and down and down.
You were sober when you got your ADHD diagnosis?
I was, yes, yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah,
Because I was curious about two things. It's I because I want to talk about losing yourself in a relationship.
yeah,
One. And then but I also first I wanted to talk about um like did you address the younger parts of you when you were going through like your healing process? Like forgiving the parts of you or reclaiming parts of you or anything like that, like the younger yous?
yeah,
The ones that didn't know
um,
better, right? They were
yeah,
just trying to survive.
yeah. It was when I started writing the book that I never thought I would do it, so it's a huge achievement for me. I found a ghostwriter because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it myself, and I'd lose interest. I'd go off, and I'd get distracted, and so serendipity found me this amazing ghostwriter. And so we spent hours and hours sitting down talking. I would record notes. She'd look through journals from rehabs. We spoke to my parents, we spoke to families and friends, and it was like putting a huge jigsaw in front of her. And
Yeah.
bit by bit, we put it all together. And so by doing that, I was reflecting through ADHD tinted lenses, going, ah, so when I was at school, I didn't like the noise, and I used to pack a little suitcase off and bugger off up the street to my Auntie Sheila for some peace. Um, and just little things like that, that kind of reading old school reports, being the class clown, masking all the time. And then later in life, I mean, I could write another book on the shit that I used to get up to, especially when you're drunk, and I even
Yes.
ended up becoming a bloody drug dealer because I got fired from one of the restaurants that I devoted a year of my life to, and one of the shareholders, who I think was homophobic, tried to sack me on the spot, but he screwed himself over. But I think I've written about that in the book as well. I ended up bumping into one of the drug dealers who I used to allow into one of the restaurant that I managed because he was good looking and he was discreet. And so he said, come and work for me. So what did I do? I went and worked for him for 10 months, and that took me down a different path. And it's something that I don't regret whatsoever. I do not regret it. I mean, again, I could write another book about the
Yeah.
experiences of being that, but I think I was quite a compassionate drug dealer. There was one particular guy who was married with kids, and he had a problem, and every night he used to call me up and he used to order 2 packets from me, 2 grams. And in the end, not every night, and I just said to him, look, I can't do this. You need to sort yourself out. I'm not doing it anymore. Now, thankfully, and we're still in touch now, he got sober, and he thanks me about it.
That's,
So yeah, yeah. So
oh,
yeah,
that's
all the decisions that I made, all the situations that I got myself into, even relationships as well, it made sense. I wouldn't say I'd fall in love with people, but I'd become kind of infatuated with people, and they were great. And then all of a sudden, you'd get to know them a little bit better, or you'd realize that they weren't for you, and you'd think, oh, I wish it would work. I wish, why is that? But it's
yeah.
that kind of, it's the dopamine rush.
Yes,
And
I
it's
do.
like when I met my now ex-husband, I thought that I had met my ride or die.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was great. It really, really was. We had many happy years together, and we shared the same things. He's a comedian. I like to think I'm a comedian. In fact, people used to say to me, "You're funnier than him," which I think at times I possibly could. Um, but yeah, his career was like, it wasn't that big at the time. So I was planning our lives, I was building our lives together. You know, we set up home, then I started a property development company, and we were building a property portfolio. I was doing everything behind the scenes in order for him to be able to do what he was doing in his job.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
And then, and trust me, I never stopped. But then there were times when, you know, we'd gone to a party and I started drinking. And because I didn't have a job per se to go to, like a 9 to 5 job, you know, on the Sunday, if we'd been out on the Saturday, we'd be like, oh, let's go for a nice Sunday lunch, you know, down the pub. And you'd be longing for that first pint of lager just to take the hangover away, the edge off, the hair of the dog. And
yep.
then it would go on to the wine, and then this, that, and the other. And then give them their due, you know, they could rein it in and go to work and do what they needed to do. But whereas I was at home with, you know, everything else going on and trying to manage things, my self medication, or my go to was to have another drink. So
Yeah.
not, and I'm not saying on a morning, but there were times where I would be drinking on a morning. You know, you'd go to bed with a
Wow.
glass of wine next to your bed, and then you'd wake up and go, "Oh, I'll just have that," and then you'd get on with your day. And then you'd look forward to the next drink at night, 5,
Yeah.
6 o'clock, once you've done your daily chores, do you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
just a vicious
absolutely.
bloody cycle.
Well, it is. And learning as we get sober, learning to, I will call it, forgive ourselves, right?
Yeah,
The people that we were at that time. And it's even though, you know, we didn't know better. If we would have known better, we would have done better, kind of thing. And I think that that's an important part of your story, is
yeah,
learning to how to do that, to
yeah,
really understand the guilt and the shame, and to forgive those parts of you. And I'd like to go into your relationship a little bit about, and the way I want to do that is, you talk about losing yourself in the relationship. So it's not really about him, it's about you and the identities that we take on, right? Like, you took on a lot of identities in your life to try to find some peace and solace. That's what I've learned. The masks that we put on, right? The different
yeah.
identities. So, what did you learn about finding you again after being lost in a relationship? Because you've talked a little bit about feel how you felt in the relationship,
Yeah.
but what did you learn about losing yourself in the relationship and then finding you again?
Losing myself, losing myself in the relationship was something that I wasn't really aware of. And in the beginning, it was fine because obviously, when you're with somebody famous, they want to know that famous person. You are just their other
Yeah,
halves, and you know they
I
you get
bet.
overlooked, you get dismissed, and it
Yeah.
and it chips away at your kind of mental health. You know, and it didn't really bother me to begin with, but then over time, it did. I didn't forgive myself because, again, I just thought this is the situation that I'm in and I just have to kind of accept it. And it wasn't until I was trying to find myself again and be my own person again that I don't think that that was necessarily how my ex wanted me to be. I think they wanted to be the star. So I kind of diminished myself in
Yeah.
a way and lost myself hugely. And that's when, again, I started the podcast. I like doing comedy sketches. I love comedy. I love making people laugh. And
Yeah.
so I started to do little sketches on Instagram and stuff like that. And again, it was criticized, and um, yeah, it was really bad for my mental health, and again, I just didn't realize why. And then I did something stupid. Again, this is I don't regret it at all. It was a big mistake, but then it led me to where I am now. I posted something on Instagram, and the press got hold of it, and it was a huge well, not a huge story, but something was made of it. And I think, to me, looking back, it was a cry for help in a way, because I
Mm.
just didn't know how to get out of the situation that I was in. I
Yeah.
just, I thought that the marriage was, you know, f- uh, for me, a marriage is a lifelong commitment, but I just didn't know how to get out of it, I guess. And so that was the start of the end, I think, for me. So have I answered the question?
So yeah, it was like, what did you learn about losing yourself in this relationship and finding yourself afterwards, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's like, because a lot of the listeners, the podcast it's about relationships. It's about relationship with ourselves and relationship with others.
Mm.
And just what you're writing about is like finding you. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people can relate to that, where we lose what you just shared, right?
Mm.
Where you kind of take on the identity of what the other person wants you to take on, and then you start losing yourself even more to where you don't even know who you are. And that's basically what you shared. And I think that has a lot of depth to it, and I'm going to encourage people to read your book, right? Because more stories are in there. I want to know, did there anything surprise you about what you discovered about yourself?
Hell yes.
That you're actually super funny, or I mean,
I
what?
I realized just how resilient and strong I am. Whereas in the past I thought I was weak
Yeah.
and a failure. I realized everything that I've been through, and you know, the the arrest, the because at the time I had two brain operations from following a bang to the head. I was going through a divorce. I was having to find a home to live in. I had a dog that was ill. And this was all in the public eye. It was all in the papers. And again, the narrative was my ex. I was the alcoholic husband,
Oh.
and that was a hard thing to bear. And so I got through that, and I learned so much about how resilient I am. And I talk a lot about rise above it and taking it on the chin. And I used to do that quite a lot and just soak everything up. So yeah, I just learned that, as I said, 50 years old, this is when it happened. I'm 55. Just it's never too late to discover who you are and keep learning and working on yourself. Can I swear?
Of course.
Fuck everybody else. It's you. It's your life.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past, what you've been through. It's shaped you as a person. And it's never too late to change that,
Mm.
because you're worth it. We're worth it. You know, I wished it had happened a long time ago. I don't regret anything that I've done, or, the experience that I've had. I've had a wonderful life. Don't get me wrong. But
Mm.
it's got me where I am today. And that's calm, that's peaceful, that's focused on me. I've just signed with a new acting agent. So I'm just working on that. And I'm
Oh.
not putting any pressure on myself. I'm not putting any masks on. People take me for who I am. And if they don't like it, they can stick it up where the sun don't shine.
Yay, very well said. Oh my gosh, that
And
is
I'm
fantastic.
I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so pleased with that book as well, because I'm sharing it with, I wouldn't say the world, because I don't know how many people are going to buy it, but I just want to help people. I just want to, you know, let people understand that we are individuals and we are worth it. I've thought
Yeah.
about killing myself, because that's what alcohol does to you at times, doesn't it? You think,
Yes, it
I'd
does.
rather not be here.
Right.
But thank goodness I haven't. And also, I'd like to add, for all you animal lovers out there, the profits are going to dog charities. So it's not a money making exercise at all. It's that's what's happening with the profits from the book.
Oh, I love you. I love that even more. That's so good. Thank you for doing that. I saw that you were an animal lover and an animal advocate. So I think that's beautiful. I always ask someone this question because I would love to touch on this for you. Because something that you shared before we started talking was that you learned that you can take accountability without spending the rest of your life punishing yourself. Okay. This has to do with forgiveness, right? Self forgiveness.
Yeah.
And for a long time, you carried that anger, that guilt, that shame toward other people and toward yourself. So, my question is that I like to ask people is what has forgiveness, particularly self forgiveness, looked like for you in rebuilding your life?
I don't think I've forgiven myself. I've just understood myself. I don't think I've done anything particularly bad to myself that I
Yeah.
have to forgive myself for. I think other people have done things bad to me and I've
Okay.
forgiven them. So I think if you forgive them, then it's easier to kind of, I don't know. Obviously, in AA, you're told to kind of apologize to people if you've wronged them. And yes, I've done some bad things, and I would like to think that they've forgiven me, and or the people who are close to me have realized that why I've done it. But forgiving myself, um, I don't think I have forgiven myself. I'm just easier on myself. I think I just am kinder to myself, and know that every mistake that I've made, every fuck up that I've done, every comment that I've made or whatever, it's been part of my journey,
Yeah.
and and I wouldn't change it. And it's made me who I am today. And all the rights, all the wrongs, all the pathways that I've gone down those pathways for a reason to get to where I am today and feel
Yeah.
at peace with myself and love myself again. It's loving yourself. You have to love
Yes.
yourself and not drink to feel that love either. Just love who you are, and also
Yeah.
work on yourself. Like I see a therapist every week, and I learn about ADHD, about trauma, about relationships, about all different kinds of things. Just keep working on yourself and don't settle for what you've got. Strive for more, which is what I'm doing now.
Oh, I love that. I think you said something really key because when you said that you understand yourself better, that right there is the start. Because forgiveness for me, what forgiveness is and the way I teach it for people is that forgiveness is really just coming back home to ourselves.
Yeah,
Forgiveness is learning to love
I
ourselves.
guess.
So that's
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
just said. And we can't accept ourselves until we understand ourselves. And so what you've done is you've looked at everything and you've gone, oh, I understand why I did that, why this happened, what this happened. It got me here today.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate, what I call forgiveness.
Forgiveness. I see. Yeah.
See, is a
Yeah.
whole different take on, oh, I did something wrong. So I have to say, I'm sorry.
I
I forgive
see.
myself.
I'm with you now. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more like what you did. You just put it all together so
Right.
beautifully. Which is so good. I love it. Thank you for
Good.
that. Yeah.
I
So I'd love,
surprise myself sometimes. I think I'm stupid, but I'm not.
you're not, you are,
I'm
no,
not a
this,
philosophical person. I see black and white. Well, I see things for how they are, and people love that about me, kind of thing. I don't go too much deep into things, but I love listening to the likes of you who explain how how you can perceive certain things like forgiveness, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I'm just a genuine, honest, open, caring, empathetic person who's been completely misunderstood for the majority of his life.
yes,
You know.
yeah. Yeah. And look at you now. This is so good. Now, I would love to end this conversation by bringing it back to somebody listening. And I have a question for you. Because there might be somebody listening today who feels like they've completely messed up their life, like you've talked about. Maybe it's addiction or relationships or it's choices they regret. And they're only now beginning to understand parts of themselves that, like you, that couldn't see before and they don't really believe they could start again. So you know that feeling. So, what would you want as we close today before we talk about your book? What would you want that person to know if they're at that place, right, where they don't know if they could start again?
You haven't messed up your life. You haven't. You you're in this world, and fuck me, it's not a very nice place at times. We just navigate it the best we can with what the tools we have. And if we make mistakes or we go down the wrong roads or we're so far into addiction that we can't see a way out. And trust me, you and I have been there. We can't see a way out. We haven't messed up our lives. We are our lives, and we have to keep striving for ourselves and the people around us who love us to, I wouldn't even say fix it, but just understand that there's a reason why you think that you fucked up your life. There's a reason why you are the way that you are. And it's not you. You didn't choose to be an alcoholic. You didn't choose to get in a car when I was a completely broken man. You know, I didn't choose to, I can think of some things, but I can't say on the podcast, do certain things. But,
Yes.
we need to have more compassion for ourselves and keeps, just again, forgive yourself, but just work on it. We haven't messed up. Nobody's messed up their lives. Nobody's messed up their lives. And if you think you have, look at me. I'm 55. I keep mentioning 55. You're supposed to say you don't look it. I've got a filter on, that's why. No. Keep going, keep striving, keep working on yourself, and fuck everybody else, and just be you, be your true, authentic self, and get out there and start winning.
Oh, that is so cool. I absolutely thank you. Thank you. And I
No,
love
thank
your
you.
authenticity and your honesty. It's so good. Now your book.
Yeah.
Let's share a little bit about that. So it's Ride
Yes.
or Die Trying. Let's see it. There we go. For those watching
Yours
on
truly on the
YouTube, there
front.
it is. I love it. And it's a great cover. Now, for somebody, what do you hope that they experience or understand differently by the time they finish this book? Do you have a thought about that?
Well, I never set out to write the book as a self-help book. A lot of people have, and there's many of them out there. I just wanted to share my story, basically, because I think it's interesting. You'll laugh, you'll cry. There's a lot of nostalgic things in there. It's seeing things through my eyes that people can relate to. I mean, not a lot of people have been married to somebody who's in the public eye. It's
Mhm.
my perspective on that as well. It's a gay man going through, feeling insecurity and feeling unseen and not heard and feeling, yeah, just lost basically. And it's bringing myself back. And again, it's a love story in a way, and it's quite sad. It is quite sad. I never thought that things would end up the way that they did. I'm glad that they have, but yeah, it's a love story, and I want people to just at the end of it just feel, ah, I can see now why I was that way. I can see now why he's behaved this way. I can see, where, how, all the whys. And so it's just it's a great summer read as well, even though the summer's over. Buy it for the winter and read it when you're tucked
Oh,
up with your cup of
absolutely.
cocoa. Yeah.
Well, with your heat wave, you're still
Yeah.
experiencing summer. So, hey, we still got summer, but I
and
think this is
and the Audible books just come out today. So I don't know when this podcast's coming out, so it's on Audible as well.
yes,
So
this will be good.
you've got my dulcet tones moaning the way through the book. No,
Oh,
it's a
I
good
love
book. It's
that
it's a
that
good
you
book.
narrated it yourself. This is
Yes, yeah.
oh, I so love that when the authors do that when they
Mm,
because
I do
then you
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
when you get the feeling and you get the
yeah.
understanding of why they
I
wrote it.
know. I
Oh,
know. I know.
oh,
I hope I've done the book justice, because when I recorded it, sadly my father had passed away recently, and also it was the lead up to the book, so there was lots of like, I had to put the book through lawyers to make sure there was nothing in there that was kind of like putting anybody down or defamation of character or anything like. Because I do talk about a lot of people. I mean, I had I talk about Adele. I write some nice anecdotes about my friend Adele, who, married me and my ex. So yeah, there's some nice little stories in there, but there's nothing, it's not throwing anybody under the bus. It's
Good.
just, it's just a nice story.
Oh, I can't wait. And I love that you called it a love story because that's what it
Mm.
is, because you were
Mm.
falling in love with yourself,
Mm. Well, I have
right?
fallen back in love with myself. I don't think I've ever loved myself, but
Oh,
um, I'm falling in love with myself.
yes. Oh, Paul, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much. I know it's like, oh no,
mm.
we could talk forever. So thank you for being so open and
No,
willing to share your story
thank
today.
you for having me on. I really do appreciate it because, like I said, I'm not famous or anything, and I just really appreciate it giving me this platform to share my story and let me be heard and seen. So, and like I said, the profits are going to dog charities as well, which is another thing. I don't know
Yeah,
whether you've seen any of my dogs in the background.
I have. I have.
Definitely
I think it's fantastic
have.
and people are going
they've,
to
they've,
love
they've
it.
got to be in on the act. They've got to be in on the act.
Of course they do. Now, as we close, I just like to I really appreciate the conversation that
Mm,
we've been able to have, and that your story doesn't pretend that the past didn't happen.
mm.
This is a huge thing for
Yeah,
our listeners today, because you've had to look at it honestly and you've had to take responsibility for the choices.
accountability for
Yeah,
everything. Yeah,
exactly. And
and
you
oh
and you
no,
got and you got to understand parts of yourself that you didn't understand before.
exactly.
And that's a huge part of why the audience listens, to
Yeah,
this
yeah.
podcast. And you've also had to decide that your past doesn't get to determine, this is the best part, the rest of your
Mm,
life,
mm, yeah.
right? And it's not about saying everything's okay, and it's not avoiding responsibility. You acknowledged what happened and you
Mm,
learned from it so that you could make different choices.
yeah.
Ah, and I
100.
love that.
Thank you.
Yes. So everyone, we're going to post in the show notes the book, all the information about how to find Paul on Instagram, and the Ride or Die Trying book. And to everyone listening, I think the invitation from today's conversation is to consider where you may still be allowing an old chapter of your life to define who you are today. You're allowed to take responsibility for your past and still believe in your future. So, with
I
that,
appreciate you, and I
I so
appreciate
appreciate you.
everybody who's listened to the podcast as well. I hope they take something away from it. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. And thank you so
Thank you.
much, Paul. And we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Bye for now, love.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode, and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.